Hello, everyone. All right. Lately, I've had some people ask me about teaching children, and I thought this would be a good platform to use for answering some of those questions. Those who have kids, here we go. I have one. I have a little daughter that is 21 months, as many of you know. Her name's Emma, and many ask this first question: is how do I go about teaching my child? And secondly, when should I start teaching my child? So I am from the train of thought that you should teach your child as early as you can, and it doesn't matter if you are Vietnamese. I know I'm a native English speaker, so people say, well, you're an English teacher and you're a native English speaker, so you can teach your daughter and she has correct pronunciation. A lot of Vietnamese are worried that the pronunciation isn't good for them, and when they teach their kids that they will get the wrong pronunciation. But I think more importantly is you have to start setting kind of a culture in your household to accept both languages early on and not separate it from, okay, your child will start thinking, when I go to ILA, VUS, or any learning center, that's only when I speak English. And then when I come home, that's only when I speak Vietnamese. I don't think that's good. And there are studies out there that show that kids are very smart. They're intelligent, and we say like sponges. They can take everything in, and so it's great because I see it with Emma. I have my wife, even though she's not perfect in pronunciation. I have her, if she says like Andy, 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 she'll also say eat, 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 or sit down. So she tries to speak both languages, and I'm not worried about the pronunciation and it's not just because I can teach her later on since I'm native, but it's easier for a child to get the pronunciation correct later on because there's so many resources out there, like on YouTube, and maybe hearing like when they do go to school, if they do, with a native English speaker, they'll hear it correctly. It's easier for them to change that later on than if they're older and trying to do it when they're in university or late elementary school, or of course an adult. It's close to impossible unless you really focus on it. It's not impossible, but you know what I mean, because many of you are trying to do that yourself. You have to put a lot more effort into it. So the main thing that you want to do is get them to become so comfortable and have them see that mom and dad, or just mom or whoever, or just dad, it's okay to think both languages, simultaneously, so both at once. So if they're saying, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, if they're counting, and then they count in Vietnamese, or if they're thinking colors or doing animals in English, then that's okay because that's all they'll know then. And they'll know that in the household, oh, mom or dad, they're speaking English and Vietnamese. And so that's okay for me to do. And it doesn't have to be just on Saturday or Sunday or this particular time. So it'll create a culture of having both languages, which will help facilitate or increase or speed up their learning process. And don't worry, because a lot of the second thing that's always asked is, well, they're speaking English now, they really like it, so I'm afraid that they won't want to learn their native culture and their language. And that's not true at all. In fact, they're going to be speaking Vietnamese fluently, and that's just a fact because you'll be speaking the majority of that to them regardless. So even if you're like at 75 to 80% Vietnamese, or even like 90% Vietnamese speaking in the household, and you just take that 10% or 5% and say a word here or there, but you're doing it consistently every day, then that's so important for a child, and they'll know that again, they'll know that it's okay to have both languages, and it's not just if they're watching it on TV or like I said, going to school. So it's real important to be able to do that. And it's as simple as this. Here, I think this is the secret. You just talk to them. You don't have to do it in any other setting of like, I mean, with Emma, I just speak, but then sometimes we sit down and it depends how they feel. They're children, right? They change. So if you have a marker, you go, oh, what color is this? Oh, it's black. Or if you go, make it fun. If you make it just a learning experience for real life. If you go to the zoo, say, oh, what animal is that? It's an elephant. And for Emma, she's already identifying different animals in both Vietnamese and English. It's really cool. And so I attribute that not so much that I'm a native English speaker, but the fact that we are just very persistent, and we have a goal to say all the time, as much as we can, we're going to introduce both languages to her. Now, the other thing you have to be really aware of is the fact of if when you set the goal, it's really hard because sometimes you don't see, we say, the fruits of your labor, or you don't see the results right away, similar to your own learning. So you have to be really patient and have to understand that this is a process and a goal that you want to get to. And a lot of parents think that, okay, this isn't working, so they give up. And that only hurts the child, okay? Now, I was just told that there was a study done with a Vietnamese woman that she had a friend from Denmark that did a study with her children, and one of them started learning Vietnamese when they were like 4 or 5, and the other one, her other child started learning when he was only 2. And so as they grew up, they're older now. The one that was 4 or 5, they had a lot more trouble learning, and they basically didn't like to learn. And the one that was 2, it was just like gradual. It was more innate, which means that it was part of them, and that's all they knew. It was, again, it's creating that culture of this is how it is in our household. It's no secret. It's not a secret at all, and it can be done. Then that's all they knew. And the child that was only 2, really, they're speaking fluently now. So you see that was a study, and it's so common because I also heard a lot of times where a lot of Vietnamese, they said, well, I'm going to wait until they're 4 or 5 and so they want to just get their own language in first. And I just think that's too bad because although they can still do it, kids can, I mean, if you're pregnant, start talking to English, when they're still in the body. Just get as much introduction of that language in there. If that's what your goal is, I mean, I'm not trying to force English on you, or your child, but I just think that's so important. So that's the key right there, is just basically don't be worried about they have to do it on this segment, or they have to do it, like, don't have it so structured or into a certain time frame. You have to integrate both languages in at the same time. And then second thing, don't worry about your pronunciation or if your grammar's off, because they'll learn that too. I mean, it's one thing. You just want them to feel confident, and kids will gain confidence too, to be able to speak in both languages. So many times, if they're only 1 or 2 or 3 years old, you can learn along with them, and you'll be able to. I know many of you can already say a lot of those words and the definitions. You don't need academic vocabulary for a 2-year-old. You just need to know green, blue, cat, dog, sky, cloud, and those are maybe even big. Circle, square. So that, man, woman, just little things like that. And you guys do know those words. You know a lot of those words. I think the words you don't know are the very academic ones, like inauspicious. But a child doesn't need to know what inauspicious means. So that's what I'm saying. So I hope this is helpful. Get your child learning as early as they can. Speak both languages as much as you can in the household. Don't worry about the way, say, doing it right or wrong so much. Like if you say, I had one student, and this was great. I love when they tell me, their concerns. They said, if I say this is a table, da la, and I don't know exactly, da la mo ban. So they go, I'm worried that I'm not doing it correctly. Should I say this is a table or just say table? You can say either one, but the key is you're saying it in English. So with Emma, I can just say, oh, table, or bat. Or if I say cat, con meo, or just cat. But the key is you're doing both languages all the time. And I don't want Emma just to know English also. I want her to know both, and both really well, fluently. So again, I do have an advantage because I'm a native speaker, so she'll get the pronunciation quicker. But your child will have an advantage over others just by having that English and Vietnamese all the time, and creating that culture of both languages. Where if they don't do that, a lot of people don't do that, your child will learn right away that they can speak English, and it's a language that is accepted in your household, other than just like, okay, you go on the weekends and then at home it's only Vietnamese, or when you go out it's only Vietnamese with their friends. So one last thing, I met when we were swimming, there was a little girl that was 9 years old, and she was not scared at all. She came up to me and asked me my name, and she was really good in English, and I thought that was really cool. And I talked to her mom, and they're both Vietnamese, the mom and dad, and they said that they didn't send them to this international school that was so expensive. They just said they applied this theory, and they said they met a foreigner that introduced it to them and really pushed it, and they stayed with it, stayed motivated to do it. When she was young, around 2 years old, and now she's 9 years old. She came up to me, not afraid, very confident, and now she's going to an international school. But even before that, they said that she's really, really good, and you could see it. I mean, her English wasn't perfect all the way through, but she communicated well, and that's a key right there. She was fluent enough, and later on, I guarantee that her English, if she sticks with it, which I'm sure she will, it will become close to native. So I hope this was helpful. I know I was speaking very fast, but I do that especially when I'm passionate or get excited about something. But those that want to teach or wanna teach their kids or have their kids learn English, do that. Okay, it's so important. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll support you. I'll make a little video for your child, and or if they're older and you're concerned about pronunciation, ask me, and I will make a recording for you so they can get the exact pronunciation. Okay, hope that was helpful. For all those that have children, good luck, because they're a lot harder even without having to try to teach them another language. And take care. Goodbye.